So today we're going to be talking about fractions in simplest form. Now I know that this is not a new topic. You learned this in 3rd grade. You also worked with it last year, correct? And now all we need to do this year is just sort of remind ourselves of what it means. You'll also be dealing with some larger numbers, okay? So it just takes a little more thinking. All right, so let's get started. We are going to start with 8/16. Oh, and you'll need a red pen today too. 8/16. So if I'm looking for the absolute smallest version of this fraction.
We started this last year.
I know. Although technically your fraction itself is not getting smaller. They're equivalent fractions. It means they're the same, but the numbers are getting smaller. Okay? So it might look like it's getting smaller, but it's really not. It's just the numbers that are. Okay? The value or the amount is actually staying the same. So what does it mean? What was my question? What does it mean for it to be in simplest form? Is that what I was saying?
Yeah, you just finished explaining what simplest form means.
Okay. So, Will.
4/8.
Okay. So, let's talk about what we're going to do here. First of all, you have to see what is going to divide into both numbers. So, Will, what did you say?
4/8.
Well, yeah, but you said at first, let's divide by 2. Now, if I'm going to divide the numerator by 2, I also have to do what by 2?
The denominator.
Divide the denominator. Good. So then I'm going to get 4/8. But are we simplified yet?
No.
No. And why not? Why not, Rachel?
Because you can divide.
Yeah, because we can divide again. Because there is a number that will go in, there's actually several, that will go into both 4 and 8. Now, you always want to choose the biggest one you can think of. Because you can divide by 2 forever and ever. But sometimes it's going to take you a really long time. Like, let's say your fraction is 222 over 480. 2 goes into both of those numbers, but do you really want to sit there and divide by 2? And then divide by 2? And then divide by 2? No, of course not. You're going to think of the biggest chunk you can take out of it. So here, instead of divided by 2, what are we going to divide by, Maddie?
1? No, 4.
By 4. Yeah, we're going to divide by 4.
It's 1.
And that gives us what, Daniel?
A half.
1/2. Okay? I could have started at the very beginning by saying 8. Yeah. I didn't want to. I mean, that was the whole point, is to show you that sometimes you have to do more than one division, and that's okay. But yeah, I could have started with 8, and then I'd be done. So let's take a few notes about this. To simplify a fraction, you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number.
I love simplifying numbers. This is my favorite subject.
Okay. So to simplify a fraction, you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, just like we did here. 2 and 2, 4 and 4. Now I wrote it off to the top and bottom. You don't have to do that. Say we wanted to start with 8/16, and I wanted to say divided by 8. And then divided by 8, I could have done that, equals 1/2. That's fine.
Wait, what does that arrow stand for?
8
like
divided by 4. This
goes
arrow?
No,
It's just like a tab. It's like a bullet point. I love bullet points. Okay? Now here's my question. How do you know when to stop? Because up until now, it's been pretty obvious. Like you would have gotten to 1/3 or 7/9. Okay, I feel good about that. But what happens when you get to 11/37ths? Not quite as obvious. How do you know when to stop, Madeline? Like when you are the most simple you can be.
When the numerator and denominator is a prime number.
Okay, absolutely. When your numerator or denominator is a prime number. So give me some prime numbers. Like what does that even mean to be prime? What does it mean to be prime, Wheeler?
You can divide it by more than 3. Numbers can go into it.
That's composite. What's prime, Win?
It's where a number you can only divide by 1 in itself.
Yeah, by 1 in itself. Okay, so give me a prime number, Will.
7.
7. What's another one, Catherine?
11.
11. Asha.
1.
1. 1's a weird number. It's kind of in between.
It's not a prime number
It-
or a composite.
Yeah, it's not. It's like in its own land. Emily.
3.
3. What else? Win.
37.
Okay, 37. Yeah, there's no factors that make up 37. He's the lone man. What else, Andrew?
5.
5. What else, Katie?
11.
Yep, said 11. Good, Catherine?
13.
13. Yeah. 17. 19. They're not all odd, though, are they?
15.
Or are they all odd?
15.
2 is. Yeah, 2 is an even one. Okay? 15 is not prime.
Wait, 0 1? No,
0 is not one either. Yeah, 4's got 2. All right, so to simplify fraction, you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. If you don't do that, say you're like, oh, I'm going to divide the numerator by 8 and the denominator by 4,
Then you change that.
you've changed the fraction, and do you have the authority to do that? No, of course you do not. So, when you can no longer divide by 2 or larger, then you are as simple as you can be, okay? But seeing those prime numbers is like, yeah. Because it's not always going to have a prime number. But if you can't divide by 2 or more, it's simplified.
Is there something?
No.
There's such a thing as a prime fraction.
No. So, shh, Daniel. So if you're going to simplify something, should you only try to divide by 2?
No.
That's a good place to start. Emily says no. What do y'all think? Should you only divide by 2 to simplify a fraction?
Stuck, maybe.
If you're stuck, it's a good place to start,
If
right?
it's an even number, yeah.
Okay, if it's an even number, yeah.
If it's odd, no.
Okay,
Like 3.
right. So try 3. Yeah, and then go from there. But sometimes you're going to divide by 15 or by 30. I mean, we're going to deal with some bigger numbers in your fraction this year. All right. Also, last little piece here. Sometimes you have to divide more than once. And that's fine. It's okay. All right, I'm going to show you 2 examples. What about this one? 32/80ths. See? What's the factor that we're going to use? And you're going to play some games today. We're going to have to talk about factors. What are you going to use here? What do you want to do, Katie? She says divided by 8. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, because 80 divided by 8 and 32 divided by 8 both work. 32 divided by 8 is what?
4.
80 divided by 8 is 10.
You could still get lower though.
Okay, we can still simplify. What do we need to divide by here?
2/5.
What is it, Rachel?
2.
By 2. So, my fraction is going to become
2/5.
2/5. Are we simple?
Yes.
Yes. Nothing will go into either one of those numbers except for 1. And who wants to sit here and waste their whole life dividing by 1? It's never going to change. It's always going to be 2/5. Okay? Let's do one more. What about 99 121sts?
21st.
What about 24? I know what.
121sts.
That's like crazy, kind of.
See, they're bigger numbers. What's going to come in handy here for these fractions? The land of fractions that we've now entered. What's going to be your very best friend? Maddie?
Could you do 11?
Now, hold on. What's going to be your very best friend? Ben?
3?
The number 3? No. What's going to be your very best friend? You learned about him in 3rd grade. Hopefully you stuck them to your mind like super glue. What is it, Katie?
Is it zeros, like adding zeros?
No.
Division.
Your multiplication facts.
Ah,
Okay? If you don't know your multiplication facts by now, oh, help us all. Life is going to be tough for you with fractions, okay? So what do you think, Maddie?
11?
She's saying divide by 11. What do y'all think? I know 11 goes into 99. What about 121?
Yes, divide by 12, right?
No, it doesn't go
yeah,
into it.
yes, it does.
Yes, 9.
It does. Now, is that a simplified number? How do you know?
Oh, yes. No, it's not. 11 is a prime number. No.
Wait, no, it's not. They're both prime numbers.
9 is not prime. 9 has 3 and 3.
But 11.
11 is prime. And nothing will go into both of those numbers. All right. The game we're going to play has greatest common factors. GCF. Greatest common factor.
Wait, we're going to play it on our notebooks?
Yep.
What if it was German crescent food?
Well, that would be delicious.
Like a
Especially because
croissant.
I'm currently hungry.
Like a croissant.
But it's not German crescent. What'd you say? Food. Actually, that's not what I would want even if I was going to eat right now. That doesn't sound very good. Although I do love Klinglers. If they could bring us a Reuben. Now we're talking. I can do without crescents.
Reasons.
Great carbonated.
What?
Reasons.
Yes. Stork chocolate. Reason, Mrs. Peterson. I used to be the commercial. Okay, so let's talk about greatest common factors. First of all, what does the word greatest mean? Shh. The most, the biggest. What is common? What's the word common mean?
Ordinary.
They share.
No, wait, I'm trying to, I know.
In this term, it means several different things. In this situation, it means something that we have in common.
Like often.
Like we share it. Both of our favorite colors are blue. Something like that, okay? So for here, it means that it's a factor that you both have in common, but it's the biggest factor that you both have in common. So then we have to think about what in the world is a factor. What's a factor? Asha, what's a factor? Okay, something you multiply by. Help her finish that off. What is it, Ben?
Wouldn't 14 be a factor of 7?
That's a multiple of 7. 7 is a factor. Thank you. 7 is a factor of 14. Okay? So let's talk about this. Just real quick. If we have 14, Ben said 14, so we'll use that. A factor is 7 and what? 2. Does anything else go into 14?
Yeah, 4. Wait. No, never mind.
No.
All right. What about, yep, we got 2
1, 14.
and 1
And 14.
and 7 and 14. Okay. What about, let's do 18.
6.
Okay.
6 and
And
2.
9.
6,
9.
3.
2.
No, this is not the game. 9 and 2. Okay. Which one of these would be between these two numbers? What is our greatest common factor?
9.
9.
Common. They both have to have it. 2. It's the only factor for this one. Okay. Even though it's not the biggest number, it's the biggest one they have in common. If you can figure out in a fraction the biggest common factor, like if I was to scoot back up to this one, I could have done 2. I could have divided by 2. Would you agree? Is that the greatest common factor? No, 8 was. Actually, what was? 16 was. Okay? 8 wasn't even the greatest one. 16 is. So if I divided by 16, I would have immediately gotten 2/5. I would have skipped a step. You don't always have to divide by the greatest common factor, but it's quicker if you can. Okay? The game you're going to play today, though, you're reducing. They're going to give you a greatest common factor, and you're going to find the fraction that matches it. Like if they said the greatest common factor was 9, you're going to find the fraction that has.
Is it partners?
Yeah, the fraction has 9 as factors for the numerator and the denominator. All right. Any questions about fractions in simplest form? Not the game, but the fractions in simplest form. All righty.
Wait, so our